Good day, viewers, and welcome to another episode of Government and Public Service Reports on Atlantic Television Network, where we bring you news, events, and stories abound in the state system. ATN's appetite for in-depth, unbiased, and factual reportage is in order to bring government activities to the doorstep of the people. Let's go to the highlights of today's reports. In the headlines, in Port Harcourt, NNPCL postpones refinery kickoff for the 6th time. In Lagos task force impounds 164 motorcycles. Katsina lifts curfew after violent protests. House of Reps pass counter-subversion bill. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll go straight into the details. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and we dive into the details for today. Analyst says the Supreme Court judgment is the final determinant of any policy-related issue in the country. Speaking on Atlantic Television Network program Open Conversations, a political analyst, Daniel Momo, advised on the need for an apex judgment on any political issues whatsoever.
What has the Supreme Court said? When issues like this come up. Several judgments was that you must first explore the internal mechanism of the party to solve that issue. If I was illegally removed, have I exhausted all internal mechanisms to resolve that issue? One. Two,
Momo urged political parties to ensure its members resolve its internal issues with regards to fundamental rights of fair hearing and due process.
Because fair hearing, courts will listen to you when you are not given a fair hearing. When you dissolve them, once a committee established that this person should come before this committee to say, I have committed A, B, C, D offenses. Can I have the opportunity to defend myself? That was.
Now you remember this is coming as Rivers State High Court nullified the appointment of caretaker committee for the All Progressives Congress in Rivers State by a national leadership of the party. In other news, Port Harcourt Refinery Company, a refinery under the management of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited in Rivers State, has again failed to conference after about 6 months. It was observed that promises made to Nigerians by the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources and the NNPC about the refinery have continued to witness multiple failures. Since December 2023, NNPC, which is in charge of all the government's refineries, has given Nigerians different dates, assuring citizens that the refinery will begin the sale of refined products soon. In July, the Chief Executive Officer of the NNPC, Mele Kyari, stated categorically that the refinery would come into operation in early August. The same Mele Kyari said in 2019 that the NNPC would deliver all countries' 4 refineries before of former President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. While appearing before the Senate recently in July, Kyari boasted, I can confirm to you, Mr. Chairman, that by the end of the year, this country will be a net exporter of petroleum products. Specific to NNPC refineries, we have spoken to a number of your committees, and it is impossible to have the Kaduna refinery come into operation before December. It will get to December, both Warri and Kaduna, but that of Port Harcourt will commence production early August this year. However, as August nears midpoint, the refinery has yet to commence operations, creating concerns that this might be another failed promise from the NNPC. Replying to inquiries from our correspondent on Tuesday, the NNPC said it was on course even when the early August promise has expired. In a chat with our correspondent, the NNPC spokesman Olufemi Soneye said, course. Soneye did not reply to further questions, asking if he meant the refinery will still operate this month. Recall that the 210,000 barrels per day refinery was said to have reached what the NNPC called mechanical completion of rehabilitation work in December. He stated that the facility would start refining 60,000 barrels of crude oil daily after last year's Christmas break. Later in January, Kyari said the refinery was being tested and would be ready for by the end of January. During the second month of the year, the Shell Petroleum Development Commission Company of Nigeria Limited completed the supply of 475,000 barrels of crude oil to the Port Harcourt refinery, raising the expectations of marketers that production was yet to commence. This came a few weeks after NNPC said in January it was seeking to engage reputable and credible operations and maintenance companies to run Port Harcourt refinery. NNPC did not disclose whether or not it has secured bidders to run the refinery. In mid-March, Kyari said the Port Harcourt refinery would commence operations in 2 weeks, which was April. He said, we are serving this country with honor and dignity, and we will make sure that the promises we make on the rehabilitation of these refineries will take place. Kyari stated after he appeared before the Senate ad hoc committee investigating the various turnaround maintenance projects of the country's refineries. As the April deadline elapsed, independent marketers told correspondents that the facility would begin production by the end of July. Commenting on this, NNPC's Chief Corporate Communications Officer, Soneye, said regulatory approvals from the international bodies were the only impediment stalling the operation commencement of the refinery. He said, "We have said that the mechanical completion has been done and every other thing is done. There is crude oil and all the pipes are working. We are only waiting for regulatory approvals. As I said, some of the things we have to do with nuclear, and we need the nuclear authorities to give us approval to use all those things at the site. And some of these approvals come from outside bodies of Nigeria. Until they give us those approvals, we can't begin operations. We are ready to go, but if something happens without it, which would be another issue. Everything has been completed in terms of our work, and once we get these approvals, it will start operations." Soneye revealed this in May. Some Nigerians have expressed disappointment that the national refineries have remained moribund for years. The country has since depended on imported fuel as it lacks refining capacity, spending up to 2 trillion monthly. The president of the Aliko Group, Aliko Dangote, said $4 billion had been spent by the federal government in an attempt to revive the nation's refineries. Also, former President Obasanjo talked tough while addressing some House of Representatives members who visited him in Abeokuta on Friday. The former president, Olusegun, recalled how Shell refused his pleas to help run the refineries when he invited them during his days as the president, blaming corruption and poor management. According to Obasanjo, some Nigerians later paid $750 million to take over the refineries. However, his successor turned it back. He said, "I ran to him. I said, 'You know this is not right.' He said, 'Well, NNPC said they can do it.' I said, 'NNPC cannot do it.' I told my successor that the refineries, from what I heard and know, will not work, and when you want to sell them, you will not get anybody to buy them at $200 million as scrap." And that was the situation we are in. So why do we do this kind of things to ourselves? NNPC knew that they could not do it, but they knew they could eat and carry out the corruption that was going on in the NNPC. When people were there to do it, they put pressure. In a civilized society, these people should be in jail, Obasanjo posited. He told the lawmakers that he was aware they were investigating the $1.5 billion the NNPC had spent on the Port Harcourt refinery. The refinery, situated in Nigeria's oil-rich Niger Delta region, has been in operation since 1965, but later became moribund for several years. The Alesa Eleme refinery complex is approximately 25 kilometers east of Port Harcourt. In March 2021, the Nigerian government acquired a $1.5 billion loan for the renovation and modernization of the refinery, a move that was criticized by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who advocated the sale of all government refineries. While reacting to the plan to hand the refineries over to private managers, Atiku tackled former President Muhammadu Buhari and the incumbent President Bola Tinubu for failing to heed his advice that the refinery and others owned by the government should be sold to private individuals. Earlier, NNPC disclosed that it signed an agreement with the African Refinery Ports Harcourt Limited for the subscription of 15% equity by ARPHL in Port Harcourt Refining Company. Parties in the deal said the agreement would lead to an increase in the refining capacity of Port Harcourt Refinery from 210,000 barrels per day to 310,000 barrels per day. PHRC is one of the 3 national refineries under the management of the NNPC. Meanwhile, the Senate has raised questions over the $1.5 billion approved in 2021 for the renovation of the refinery. The upper chamber lamented that it is unfair and wrong to treat government businesses or public companies as orphans while private businesses were flourishing and thriving. The Senate leader and chairman of the Senate ad hoc committee to investigate the alleged economic sabotage in the Nigerian petroleum industry, Okpeyemi Bamidele raised the question at a session with stakeholders in the industry in Abuja. At the session, Bamidele expressed concerns over the dysfunctionality of the government's own refineries despite investments to carry out turnaround maintenance. Nigerians are hopeful that the refinery will stop fuel importation and crash the pump price of petrol when it is completed. In other stories, Enugu State Police Command has arrested and charged a suspect, Aliyu Saad, with stealing a streetlight pole in the new artisan area of Enugu. This was revealed in a statement signed by the Enugu State Police Public Relations Officer, Deputy Superintendent of Police, Daniel Ndukwe, on X.com on Tuesday. Saad was apprehended on August 8, 2024 at 4:30 a.m. by operatives from the New Haven Division, following a tip-off about the criminal activity. He was subsequently charged in the Enugu North Magistrates Court and remanded in the Correctional Custodial Center, Enugu, pending further hearings. The statement said, one Aliyu Saad, male, arrested on 8 August 2024 at approximately 4:30 a.m. by operatives of the Enugu State Police Command serving in the New Haven Division, was today, 13th of August 2024, charged in the Enugu North Magistrates Court and remanded in the Correctional Custodial Center, Enugu, pending further hearings. It said the suspect was arrested for allegedly uprooting and stealing a streetlight pole in New Artisan, Enugu, following the operative's swift response to credible information about the criminal act. This operational achievement comes on the heels of the directives issued to police operatives of the command by the Commissioner of Police, CP Kanayo Uzuegbu, to clamp down on unrepentant criminal elements, including those intent on vandalizing public infrastructure in Enugu State. The CP urges the operatives to maintain their efforts and encourages the citizens of the state to remain law-abiding, vigilant, and promptly report criminals and their activities to the nearest police station. Also, Lagos State Task Force yesterday impounded 164 motorcycles, popularly called Okada, in some parts of the state over illegal operations. The enforcement ordered by the Lagos State Commissioner of Police, CP Adegoke Fayode, took place at Badagry Expressway Mile 2, Second Rainbow Bus Stop, V Niger Bus Stop, Alabasuru, and Berga Bus Stop. Speaking on the enforcement, the chairman of the agency, Superintendent of Police, CSP Adetayo Akerele, disclosed that most of the operators hide under the guise of the bikes belonging to soldiers or are operated by soldiers in the vicinity in a bid to evade arrest when caught in the act. He said, we encountered some form of resistance from Okada operators who claim that the bikes belong to soldiers and therefore are untouchable. I quickly cleared their doubts and used it as a means to sound a note of warning that there are no sacred cows when it comes to restoring sanity on our roads. The impounded Okada was taken to the task force headquarters where they will all be crushed. The chairman further reminded uniformed personnel who make use of Okada as a means of transportation to ensure that they are fully kitted in their regalia while on a bike. He also urged commuters to desist from patronizing Okada operators who not only pose safety risks to the passenger and rider, but also a security risk to all residents due to the use of Okada as a quick getaway means by criminal elements. Do not forget that we are open for advert placements, bookings, and commercials. You can also connect with us on our socials on ATN, Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1, X formerly known as Twitter, Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live on our website, atlanticnetwork.tv. Now back to the stories. Katsina Acting Governor Farouk Lawal Jobe has lifted the curfew imposed on the state following the recent hijack of nationwide protests. The acting governor's directive was contained in a statement by the secretary to the state government, Abdullahi Faskari. It reads, following reports on the prevailing peace and harmony all over Katsina State, the acting governor, Farouk Lawal, has lifted the curfew imposed on the state with immediate effect. The acting governor's order for lifting off the curfew was to enable people go about their normal businesses unhindered. Yobe also reiterated the commitment of the Diko Radas-led administration towards curtailing the security challenges in the state. He appreciated the security agencies and the good people of the state for the support and understanding. President Bola Tinubu has approved a new national policy that seeks to address the increase in health workforce migration. This was made known in a statement signed by the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Ali Pate, on Monday. The minister said the policy is a comprehensive strategy to manage, harness, and reverse health workers' migration. He added that the policy will also encourage the return of professionals to Nigeria through attractive incentives and reintegrate them into the national health system. The statement reads, this approach leverages the expertise of our diaspora to bridge gaps within the health sector. Also, the policy champions reciprocal agreements with other nations to ensure that the exchange of health workers benefits Nigeria. These bilateral and multilateral agreements are designed to protect national interests while respecting the rights and aspirations of our healthcare professionals. We call on recipient countries to implement a 1-1 match, training one worker to replace every publicly trained Nigerian worker they receive. The minister said the policy acknowledges the importance of work-life balance and has included provisions for routine health checks, mental well-being support, and reasonable working hours, especially for younger doctors. It said, these measures aim to create a supportive work environment, reducing burnout and enhancing job satisfaction, Pate said. Recently, Nigerians received a pat on the back yesterday for resisting unconstitutional change of government during the recent protest over economic crisis. The Council of State, which hailed their commitment to democratic stability, also passed a vote of confidence in President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for displaying leadership qualities. The Advisory Council, made up of 7 and past presidents, heads of state and governors, reflected on the state of the nation during its meeting in Aso Villa, Abuja. It is the first meeting of the body since President Bola Tinubu assumed the reins last year. Present at the meeting were former President Muhammadu Buhari and Goodluck Jonathan. Former military heads of state, General Yakubu Gowon and General Abdusalami Abubakar, joined virtually. But former President Olusegun Obasanjo and former military President General Ibrahim Babangida were absent governors. Who also joined the meeting virtually are Alex Oti of Abia, Omo Eno of Akwa Ibom, Amodu Fintiri of Adamawa. 7 members of the Federal Executive Council FEC made presentations to the council on the implementation of renewed hope agenda of the administration. They included National Security Advisor Malam Nuhu Ribadu, Minister of Solid Minerals Development Dr. Dele Alake, Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of Economy Wale Edun, and Minister of Trade and Investment Dr. Doris Anite Uzoka. Kwara State Governor and Chairman of the Nigeria's Governors Forum, Abdurrahman Abdurazak, told reporters after the meeting that the council unanimously passed a vote of confidence in Tinubu for the way he has governed the country. He also said the council was satisfied with the presentations made by ministers on the progress of the economy. Abdurazak said the high notes of the meeting was an unanimous passage of votes on the confidence of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Members, especially those of the Nigeria Governors Forum, were satisfied with the presentation by the members of the Federation Executive Council. And after that meeting, there was an executive session between members of the Nigeria's Governors Forum and Mr. President. And frank and fruitful discussions were held between both parties. And I'm glad to say we're back on track. And to say in the same vein, members of the NGF also, like the members of the Council of the State passed a vote of confidence in President Tinubu. They said, "We also wish him well and pray for God's guidance for him." Alake said the council also praised Tinubu for resisting a forceful takeover of government. Alake said the recent action was not a protest but a movement. He said the council affirmed that nobody will be allowed to change the government except through the ballot box. Alake restated that 7 ministers made presentations to the council on the progress being made on economic diversification and economy. He said the National Security Advisor, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, briefed the council on the events before, during, and after the recent protest. Alake described the protest as a movement to effect a change of regime by force, insisting that it was resisted by Nigerians. He said the council thanked Nigerians for resisting an unconstitutional attempt to change the government. Alake emphasized that if anyone is dissatisfied with the current administration, they should wait until the next elections in 2027 to make change. He said the NSA reassured that security agencies were ready to secure Nigeria's territorial integrity and protect its democracy. You are watching Government and Public Service Reports on Atlantic Television Network program. We'll be back after this short break. Don't go nowhere. Welcome back to Government and Public Service Reports on Atlantic Television Network. Now to the rest of our stories. The Nigerian House of Representatives has introduced the Counter-Subversion Bill 2024, which aims to impose stringent penalties on individuals involved in separatist agitations or actions that incite inter-group or sectional conflicts. According to the proposed legislation, anyone convicted of such an offense could face a prison sentence of up to 25 years or a fine of 10 million naira or both. The bill's explanatory memoranda states that the legislation seeks to criminalize subversive activities by a wide range of groups, including associations, organizations, militias, cults, bandits, and other prescribed entities. Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, and Sunday Igboho have agitated for the separate nations of Biafra and Oduduwa, which is Yoruba, respectively. The bill, sponsored by Speaker Tajuddin Abbas, is set for its second reading, while its general principles will be debated. The bill stipulates that anyone found guilty of destroying national symbols, refusing to recite the national anthem and pledge, defacing a place of worship with intent to incite violence, or undermining the federal government shall face a fine of 5 million naira or 10-year prison sentence, or both. Meanwhile, it states that anyone who sets up an illegal roadblock, performs unauthorized traffic duties, imposes an illegal curfew, or organizes an unlawful procession will be subject to a fine of 2 million naira, 5 years imprisonment, or both upon conviction. However, the bill imposes a fine of 4 million naira or a 2-year prison sentence for anyone convicted of insulting, defaming, embarrassing, or bringing into disrepute the leadership of a community, religion, lawful group, local government, state government, or federal government. Sections 2, 5, 6, and 10 of the proposed legislation further stated that any person who engages in activities that foster mutual suspicion, mistrust, or intolerance leading to conflict and violence that threaten Nigeria's corporate existence, peace, and security commits an offense and is liable to a fine of 5 million naira, a 10-year prison sentence, or both. It said, a person who forcefully takes over any place of worship, town hall, and all previous places mentioned through undue duress, under undue influence, subterfuge, or other similar activities commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine of 5 million naira or imprisonment for a term of 10 years, or both. A person who professes loyalty, pledges, or agrees to belong to an organization that disregards the sovereignty of Nigeria commits an offense and is liable to conviction to a fine of 3 million naira or imprisonment for a term of 4 years, or both. A person who receives financial or political support from a foreign organization, group, or country that is not compatible with the interests, development, security, and progress of Nigeria commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine of 15 million naira or imprisonment for a term of 20 years, or both. Sections 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, and 20 of the bill stipulate that any individual, group, or organization involved in activities that undermine national security, disrepute community harmony, disturb peaceful coexistence, or impede law and order will be deemed to have committed an offense. Upon conviction, the penalty is a fine of 3 million naira, imprisonment for up to 5 years, or both. The bill further reads, a person, group, or organization that persistently disregards, disobeys, or disrespects constituted authority, rules, regulations, order, or contravenes the law willfully commits an offense and is liable on conviction to 3 years in prison at the first instance and 7 years for a subsequent offense, or a fine of 5 million naira, or both. A person who habitually violates the law, refuses or prevents arrests, disrupts legal processes or proceedings, engages in contrary behavior, or persistence in recalcitrant defiance and rebellion against constituted authority commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine of 5 million or 7 years imprisonment, or both. A person who establishes, creates, operates, or maintains funds, supports, or assists in paramilitary group, guard, brigade, organization, corps, union, militia, cult, or bandits group under whatever name or guise, except established by the laws passed by the National Assembly or State House of Assembly, commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine of 10 million naira or 15 years imprisonment, or both. Sections 17 and 20 stipulate that any individual who unlawfully constructs or a structure or occupies a public place, road, or field without authorization from relevant authorities commits an offense. Upon conviction, the individual is liable to a fine of 1 million naira, imprisonment for up to 3 years, or both. A person who owns, possesses, produces, distributes, imports, handles, uses military, police or intelligence agencies' uniforms, emblems, or accoutrements commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine of 2 million naira or imprisonment of a term of 2 years or both, it reads. The federal government has moved to ensure a hitch-free implementation of President Bola Tinubu's directive for the sale of crude oil to local refineries in Nigeria by meeting with Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited, NNPCL, Group Managing Director Mele Kyari, and relevant stakeholders. The other stakeholders from various sectors involved in the petroleum and financial industries at the meeting include Henneken Lokbobiri, Minister of State for Petroleum Oil, Zach Adedeji, Executive Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service, which is the FIRS, and Lydia Jafia, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Finance. The meeting which was convened by Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, took place in a Finance Ministry in Abuja on Monday. Federal Executive Council had on Monday 29th okayed President Tinubu's proposal for NNPC to halt the sale of crude oil to all local refineries in foreign currency. It being the FEC, which approved that 450,000 barrels for domestic consumption be sold to the refineries in Naira, said the decision was to stabilize pump price of refined fuel and the dollar rate exchange. A statement by Muhammad Manga, Director of Information and Public Relations in the Finance Ministry, said Edun and the stakeholders engaged in in-depth discussions aimed at addressing the long-standing challenges within the petroleum sector. The challenges, according to the statement, have often hindered the full potential of Nigeria's oil industry, particularly in relation to refining capacity and financial stability. It added that the sale of crude to the local refineries in Naira is intended to support their operations and strengthen the domestic economy. Edun, according to the statement, expressed optimism about the initiative, emphasizing that the collective efforts of the parties at the meeting would be crucial in ensuring its success. This groundbreaking initiative will empower local refineries, stimulate economic growth, and redefine our nation's petroleum landscape, he said. The statement partly reads, on Monday, the Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, led a key meeting aimed at implementing President Tinubu's directive for the National Nigerian Petroleum Corporation Limited to sell crude oil to local refineries in Naira. This initiative is intended to strengthen the domestic economy and support the sustainable operations of local refineries, including the Dangote refinery. During the in-depth discussion, the Finance Minister expressed strong confidence in the collaborative efforts of all stakeholders to achieve the directive's objectives. In the in-depth discussion, it underscored long-standing challenges within the petroleum sector, but the minister expressed strong confidence in the collaborative efforts of all stakeholders to achieve the directive's objectives. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State yesterday announced the signing of a comprehensive health insurance executive order. Similarly, the Ogun State government launched a health insurance scheme designed for the formal sector, comprising civil servants, public servants, and workers in the organized private sector. Briefing journalists in Lagos, the Commissioner of Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, detailed the key provisions and goals of the transformative policy, adding that the initiative is designed to significantly improve the health outcomes of Lagos State residents. Abayomi said, the initiative aligns with the objective of the National Health Insurance Authority Act of 2022, making state-level social health insurance mandatory to achieve universal health coverage, UHC. Social health insurance, universally practiced in various forms, has numerous socio-economic benefits. It pools contributory funds and spreads risk across a large group, minimizing individual finance exposure and enhancing protection. Ogun State launches health insurance scheme. Similarly, Governor Dapo Abiodun of Ogun State who spoke at the official launch of the scheme held at the Obas complex. Governor's office, Oke Mosan Abeokuta, disclosed that his government would pay 50% of the premium for every worker who registered on the scheme. Abiodun, who was represented by his deputy, Ms. Neomot Salako Oyedele, said, "I hereby reassure all public servants that their well-being will remain a priority in the government's development agenda, as demonstrated in our payment of a 100 million counterpart fund." Analysts have advocated for the mass production and distribution of vehicles with compressed natural gas across the country. Speaking on Atlantic Television Network program Blowout, a social-political expert, Loveday Oporom, tasked the federal government on the need for indigenous brand patronage in the transport industry.
Encourage, our people, what are being produced locally here to thrive. They can position those products in the global market, and believe me, we will sell. So that's another area that we must pay key attention to. This thing shouldn't just stop at the demonstration stage. The government should go a step further. If possible, all ministries, all vehicles that should be used by the ministries across the state should be vehicles produced by innocent.
Oporom also decried against misappropriation of funds and projects by politicians.
And do it. And of course, every project, every businessman wants to make profit. Make the required profit. Don't form, don't try to pad whatever just because it's government project so that you pick your own and all of that. And government should also try to deal with the persons.
Remember also that this is coming after President Tinubu assured that the huge deposit of gas in Nigeria, the federal government would work towards achieving a more productive and innovative CNG-powered transportation system for the citizens. This is where we wrap it up on this edition of Government and Public Service Reports on Atlantic Television Network in the city of Port Harcourt. I am King David Obasi. Thank you for staying connected. Also, stay connected to us on our socials, Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1, X formerly known as Twitter, Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live on our website, Atlantic Network TV, network.tv. Peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you for watching. Remain blessed.